As formative experiences go, walking to school may not strike you as all that significant, unless, of course, you're Jennifer Keesmaat. It seems it never occurred to Toronto's first female chief planner or her family that there was any other way to make it to school on time. We all walk to school, rain or shine, she has said. It wasn't really a point of discussion. It was just something that we all did. It's likely that the seeds of Jennifer's unshakable belief in pedestrian-friendly cities were planted on those very trips to school each day. And thankfully, she's now putting those beliefs into action on behalf of all Torontonians. Open and approachable, Jennifer sees it as her duty to generate public discussion around normally opaque city planning processes. And with a red-hot Twitter account, as you may have seen today, and an opinion-generating blog, she's doing just that. Toronto and its myriad problems seem to be just one more challenge for Jennifer to meet head-on. Toronto is a gritty city. It's not polished up, and I appreciate that, she once said. There's change around every corner, and unexpected, unusual things are woven into the fabric of this city. It seems we are in very good hands indeed. Please welcome Jennifer Keesmaat.
Thank you so much, Romina. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of this event, in part because I too am a philosophy scholar. I'm also an English Lit scholar. So this is bringing together a few of my various loves. And I had thought that maybe just today I could come up to the stage and no one would mention the word Twitter. Wishful thinking, wishful thinking. And if anyone did follow Twitter today, you know I could not be more happy to be here with you in this room having this conversation. I'm going to read to you from a very special book that I trust many of you have read, In the Skin of a Lion. And I, in fact, have taken on a role that I never anticipated during my professional training, and that is the role of a public servant. And this wonderful book provides some beautiful clues to the possibilities for public servants. And we have become somewhat afraid of some of those possibilities. So I am, in fact, inspired by this narrative that I'm going to read to you today. This story also points to the many, many hands, some that we do not see or recognize on a daily basis, that are a critical part of building a great city. And I'm cognizant of this in everything that I do, that there's so many hands and so many players that are a part of building a great city. This is also a story of great vision. And you know the parable, without vision, the people perish. And in fact, vision in our city building is critical and at times in short supply. This is also a story about unintended consequences. I like this because city building is an art. It's a little bit science, but it's much more art. And when you have people and you have art, you sometimes have unintended consequences, and sometimes we need to hold each other really tight. A truck carries fire at 5 a.m. through central Toronto, along Dundas Street and up Parliament Street, moving north. Aboard the flatbread, 3 men stare into passing darkness, their muscles relaxed in the last half hour before work, as if they don't own the legs or the arms jostling against their bodies and the backboard of the Ford. Written in yellow over the green door is Dominion Bridge Company. But for now, all that is visible is the fire on the flatbed burning over the 3-foot by 3-foot metal dish, cooking the tar in a cauldron, leaving this odor on the streets for anyone who would step out into the early morning and swallow the air. The truck rolls burly under the arching trees, pauses at certain intersections where more workers jump onto the flatbed, and soon there are 8 men, the fire crackling, hot tar now and then spitting onto the back of a neck or an ear. Soon there are 20, crowded and silent. The light begins to come out of the earth. They see their hands, the textures on a coat. The trees they had known were there. At the top of Parliament Street, the truck turns east, passes the Rosedale Fill, and moves towards the half-built viaduct. The men jump off. The unfinished road is full of ruts, and the fire and the lights of the truck bounce, the suspension wheezing. The truck travels so slowly, the men are walking faster in the cold dawn air, even though it is summer. Later, they will remove coats and sweaters. Then by 11, their shirts, bending over the black rivers of tar, and just their trousers, boots, and caps. But now, the thin layer of frost is everywhere, coating the machines and cables, brittle on the rain puddles they step through. The fast evaporation of darkness. As light emerges, they see their breath, the clarity of the air being breathed out of them. The truck finally stops at the edge of the viaduct, and the lights are turned off. The bridge goes up in a dream. It will link the East End and the center of the city. It will carry traffic, water, and electricity across the Don Valley. It will carry trains that have not even been invented yet. Night and day, fall light, snow light, they are always working. Horses and wagons and men arriving for work on the Danforth side at the far end of the valley. There are over 4,000 photographs from various angles of the bridge in its time-lapse evolution. The piers sink into bedrock 50 feet below the surface through clay and shale and quicksand. 45,000 cubic yards of earth are excavated. The network of scaffolding stretches up and up and up. Men in a maze of wooden planks climb deep into the shattered light of blonde wood. A man is an extension of hammer, drill, flame. Drill smoke in his hair. A cap falls into the valley. Gloves are buried in stone dust. Then the new men arrive, the electricals laying grids of wire across the 5 arches, carrying the exotic 3-bowl lights. And on October 18, 1918, it is completed. Lounging in midair, the bridge, christened Prince Edward, the Bloor Street Viaduct. During the political ceremonies, a figure escaped by bicycle through the police barriers. The first member of the public, not the expected show car containing officials, but this one anonymous and cycling like hell to get to the east end of the city. In the photographs, he is a blur of intent. He wants the virginity of it, the luxury of such space. He circles twice, the string of onions that he carries on his shoulder splaying out, and continues. But he was not the first. No. The previous midnight, the workers had arrived and brushed away officials who guarded the bridge in preparation for the ceremonies the next day, moved with their own flickering lights, their candles for the bridge dead. Like a wave of civilization, a net of summer insects over the valley. And the cyclist, too, on his flight, claimed the bridge in that blurred movement, alone and illegal. Thunderous applause greeted him at the far end. On the west side of the bridge is Bloor Street. On the east side is Danforth Avenue. Originally cart roads, mud roads, planked in 1910, they are now being tarred. Bricks are banged into the earth and narrow cheeks of sand are poured in between them. Tar is spread. The smell of tar seeps through the porous body of their clothes. The black of it is permanent under their nails. In winter, snow removes the scent of tar, the scent of pitched cut wood. The Don River flows below the unfinished bridge, ice banging at the feet of the recently built piers. On winter mornings, men fan out nervous over the whiteness. Where does the earth end? There are flares along the edge of the bridge on winter nights, worst shift of all, where they hammer the nails in through snow. The bridge builders balance on a strut, the flares wavering behind them, aiming their hammers towards the noise of a nail that they can't see. The last thing Roland Harris, Commissioner of Public Works, would do in the evenings during its construction was have himself driven to the edge of the viaduct to sit for a while. At midnight, the half-built bridge over the valley seemed deserted, just lanterns tracing its outlines. But there was always a night shift of 30 or 40 men. After a while, Harris removed himself from the car, lit a cigar, and walked onto the bridge. He loved this viaduct. It was his first child as head of public works, much of it planned before he took over, but he had bullied it through. It was Harris who envisioned that it could carry not just cars, but trains on a lower trestle. It could also transport water from the East End plants to the center of the city. Water was Harris's great passion. He wanted giant water mains traveling across the valley as part of the viaduct. He slipped past the barrier and walked towards the working men. Few of them spoke English, but they knew who he was. Sometimes he was accompanied by Pomfrey, an architect, the strange one from England, who was later to design for Commissioner Harris one of the city's grandest buildings, the water filtration plant in the East End. For Harris, night allowed scope. Night removed the limitations of detail and concentrated on form. Harris would bring Pomfrey with him past the barrier onto the first stage of the bridge that ended 60 yards out into the air. The wind moved like something ancient against them. All men on the bridge had to buckle on halter ropes. Harris spoke of his plans to this 5-foot-tall Englishman, struggling his way into his brain. Before the real city could be seen, it had to be imagined, the way rumors and tall tales were a kind of charting. One night, they had driven there at 11 o'clock, crossed the barrier, and attached themselves once again to the rope harnesses. This allowed them to stand near the edge to study the progress of the piers and steel arches. There was a fire on the bridge where the night workers congregated, flinging logs and other remnants onto it every so often, warming themselves before they walked back and climbed over the edge of the bridge into the night. They were working on a wood facing for the next pier so that concrete could be poured in. As they sawed and hammered, wind shook the light from the flares attached to the side of the abutment. Above them, on the deck of the bridge, builders were carrying huge Ingersoll Rand air compressors and cables. An April night, 1917. Harris and Pomfrey were on the bridge in the dark wind. Pomfrey had turned west and was suddenly stilled. His hand reached out to touch Harris on the shoulder, a gesture he never made. Look. Walking on the bridge were 5 nuns. Past the Dominion steel casting, wind attacked the body directly. The nuns were walking past the first group of workers at the fire. The bus, Harris thought, must have dropped them off near Castle Frank, and the nuns had, with some confusion at that hour, had walked the wrong way in the darkness. They had passed the black car under the trees and, walking cheerfully, stepped past the barrier into a landscape they did not know existed. onto a tentative carpet over the piers among the night laborers. They saw the fire and the men. A few tried to wave back. There was a mule attached to a wagon. The hiss and jump of machines made the ground under them lurch. One man was washing his face in a barrel of water. The nuns were moving towards a 30-yard point on the bridge when the wind began to scatter them. They were thrown against the cement mixers and steam shovels, careening from side to side, in danger of going over the bridge. Some of the men grabbed and enclosed them, pulling leather straps over their shoulders, but two were still loose. Harris and Pomfrey at the far end looked on helplessly as one nun was lifted up and flung against the compressors. She stood up shakily, and then the wind jerked her sideways, scraping her along the concrete and right off the edge of the bridge. She disappeared into the night by the third abutment, into the long depth of air which held nothing, only sometimes a rivet or a dropped hammer during the day. Then there was no more fear of the bridge. The worst, the incredible had happened. A nun had fallen off the Prince Edward Viaduct before it was even finished. The men, covered in wood shavings or granite dust, held the women against them, and Commissioner Harris at the far end stared along the mad pathway. This was his first child, and it had already become a murderer. Thank you.